There's a lot of hype around the DJI 04 Air unit right now, so I thought I would take a bit of time and do some color grading on the files. I got some great clips from VirginFPV, Dronarchy, and Rice Bowl, so we're gonna just go through those. I'm gonna kind of grade them in real time and just talk out loud and think out loud as I go through them. This video is likely to get pretty long as I talk through everything, so grab a snack and drink and maybe put it in 2x speed or use the chapters to jump around. Hopefully we'll improve the shots. In general, 04 looks fantastic. We might have a few of these clips that we don't really make any better or we make worse, but we'll give it a shot. All right, so let's start here with VirginFPV's clip. He's got this awesome clip diving through the waterfall. He sent me another one here. We'll see if we can copy between these two. This is 04 Lite, by the way, on a tinywhoop. And as I've looked through most of these clips, there's some pretty consistent things I think we can address and make a little bit better. So the first one's being exposure control. I've hit Option S for a new node, and I'm gonna hit Option P as well for a new parallel node. You can also right click and add a parallel node. So I'm gonna call this one, let's call this one highlights. We're going to call this one exposure. And I want to kind of tackle some of this in the highlights. We don't want that clipping. If you look at scopes here, this top line is the brightest stuff, and anything that goes past that line we call it clipped. So if I bring on highlights, you'll see we actually get a little bit back because most cameras will record super whites, a little bit of percentage above clipping. But there's still the sky is just gone. That's what this hard line is. So we can't bring that back, but we can soften the transition into that a little bit. So what I'm gonna try to do first is this. So you go to curves and you have high soft. So you can push the soft down and you can see it kind of turns foggy rather than like the hard line on the edge is gone and it goes a little foggy. So that by itself isn't bad. If you've already clipped it, it's best to keep that pretty high. So we're gonna push that back up. And just that by itself wasn't too bad. All right, so now we'll jump to exposure here and let's do shadows. Let's see. It's really close to the edge, but this is the shadow line, and what's below that is clipped. Let's see what it brings back. So what's below there is actually truly clipped in this one. So I'm going to keep this there. Let's see what low soft does. I don't really like that, but let me try. No. I don't like low soft on this one. I'm going to try to just lift up the log shadows. Log's just a little bit more precise than the primary wheel, and we can change the range here about what it's controlling. I want to do just the darkest stuff. This number here correlates to these numbers here on the waveform. I'm trying to get shadows back, but also keep contrast. So let's try dipping gamma down a bit. I'm going to use Command D to disable the node instead. Can I get away with a little bit more now? Too far. Let's go the other way. Let's lift primaries and bring log down. That's actually better. It's the opposite of what I usually do. So we're lifting this primary shadow wheel. Lift, it's called lift. And and the primaries. The primaries are more general, and we're going to the log, very specific, and pulling down just the darkest stuff. A little bit brighter, but we're keeping contrast. I think we can maybe bring a little bit more here. I think that looks pretty good. It helps there quite a bit. Good. Okay, let's move on. Let's find a shot with lots of color. This one's got some good stuff in there. Since this shot's not like off in color, we'll just try to make the colors separate and pop a little bit more, but not really change it too much, I'm hoping. So I'm gonna cool off the highlights a little, and I'm gonna warm up mids. I like the red in the rock, so I'm gonna push it a little too far. And then we're gonna back off, compensate for that extra warmth with the shadows. All of this moss is really nice green. You got this kind of blue rock, so the blue-green shadows are good. Let's do that. Let's see our difference. Command D. I do like that change quite a bit in this frame, at least. How about here? Yeah, that's good. I like how it cleaned up the shadows. The shadows were really red, but I want more red in the rock. Let's see if we can get some more red pushed out of here. Let's do hue versus saturation. Can we saturate just the red a little? Yeah. A little bit of red. And I'm also gonna go to hue luminance versus saturation. And I'm gonna turn saturation down in the brightest stuff, and I'm gonna pull it down in the darkest stuff too. That did too much, so let's push our saturation back up a little. This probably isn't the way I would do it, but the way I would add saturation, if I'm gonna add saturation normally, would be through a split node, and it gets kind of complicated. So I'm just gonna do it the simple way here and just add it like that. I like that a lot. It's starting to look really good. Let's do, how far can I push this? Oh, that looks cool. Look at that. I like that a lot. Okay, let's do some sharpness. This first shot is really, there's a lot of over sharpening that's happening right here especially. I have a quick key set up to label these, but you can right click and do node label if you want. Alright, let's jump to here and click on the sharp. There's a blur, and this is blur sharpen, which helps a lot. So I'm going to pull this down here. We're going to go super sharp so I can see it. I'm going to hit the highlights button, or you can do Shift H for that, and then hit AB. And this lets you see like the grayscale of what you're doing. So now we can mess with some of these other settings. I'm going to turn coring, soften this up. How much? So essentially this is just setting the softness of the sharpening, which sounds weird, but it will kind of blur the edges of the softening. Sharpening's like you're taking a Sharpie over the lines and drawing this black Sharpie over things, and this is like saying I just have a softer tip Sharpie. I guess I don't know how else to explain that. And scaling is just like, I don't actually know. I guess this is the threshold in which it's catching what needs to be sharpened. I'm going to turn that down quite a bit. Alright, let's get out of Shift H to get out of there. I think. Let's wait. Yeah, so we added a ton of sharpening. I'm going to back it off now. Alright, we have That's a nice amount. It's still too much sharpening though, but I'm gonna use this mid-tone detail. I'm gonna bring that down. A lot of times just taking mid-tone detail on an over-sharpened or an action camera shot is plenty to do, and it will soften it up just enough to make it work well. But we're softening a little bit and we're sharpening back a little bit, so we have good detail but not too much over-sharpening. Yeah, I think the mid-tone detail's doing more. I like what that's doing, that's good, sure. Call it good. It's probably gonna be really hard to see on YouTube, sorry. Let's see. Actually, let's give us a little bit of room. I want to add a LUT here at the end. Option D disables everything. Okay, that's looking good. I probably would mess more with that mist and the clouds a bit, but oops. That's good for now. All right, let's see what I like that a lot right off the bat. Yeah, look at how it makes that hard line with what was clipped, kind of blurs it and makes it glow. That's really nice. On our exposure node, we left a little bit of extra room for the crunched shadows and highlights, so that's good. It's not very often that the default setting works well. I feel like it went a little too green. Let's bring back the tint. Still definitely a little green. Let's do no tint. I just color blend down. It's pretty good. I don't want flicker. I might just take it down a little bit here. No? I like it. Let's leave it. It looks really good. Alright, let's do some stabilization. This has got a bit of shake. It's kind of these little bouncy bobbles. And I don't want it to look stabilized. I know VirginFPV likes it like this, not stabilized. And I agree with him. I like how kind of raw it is. So let's try to just take the little jitters out. I'm gonna go here to stabilize and change the version. The perspective and similarity, I think I've never had them work on FPV video, ever. So I'm just gonna skip them. We're gonna reduce these quite a bit here. Let's try half. We might go a little less than that. Let's see. Bit of a punch in on a tight lens already. Is it worth it? Yeah. I think we can go less. Let's go a little less. Yeah, that's better. There's a couple little bobbles in there, but they're not distracting. Just feels more alive. Oof, that looks good. These L4s, wow. All right, let's go disable everything. Oh, I love what that does to the mountains. It takes a clipped shot and actually makes it work. Yep, alrighty. That's good, let's move on to our next clip. Well, let's see if I can just copy. This is the other one he sent. So I'm gonna select here and I'm gonna middle mouse click on this guy, and that copies all the grade over. And a lot didn't work, so let's disable that first. Obviously the stabilization is not gonna work, but we can just run it again. All right, that's too much. Let's bring it back up. Oh, such an awesome shot. All right, we copied most of the same settings. The red saturation on this one's too much. Let's take that down. I love the blue, the dark blue. Let's add the film look back. I think the film look is, it's doing a lot. I'm gonna just get rid of that. We're not gonna use it. Let's reset that. And we'll do our own new film look. And go to LUTs. Drag that on there. It's way too much, so I'm going to key output. I'm going to bring it way down. So it's not doing a ton. Just a little bit of a crunch, just matching the last shot a little bit more. Let's throw some grain on there, since we don't get that from the film look creator. That's going to be real tough to see online. Before and after everything. Look at the detail, like the sharpening change makes a big difference. Awesome. All right, let's jump to this. This is from Dronarchy, and this is Avata2, which is an 04 camera and sensor and all that same stuff. So let's do this one. We'll tackle it a little different. Let's do just exposure. Let's try to do some of our highlight control with just the HDR wheels. I'm gonna jump here to this. You can actually tell this what color space we have. I don't think this is DJI, maybe. Stretch our shadows down a little bit. Okay, I'm just trying to get a little contrast, but not clip things. Let's jump back to contrast. Oh, it's right here. Oh, too much. So we're adding contrast, and then you can use pivot to adjust where the contrast is at. I'm gonna somewhere maybe in there. That's probably way too much. Let's back it off a little. Okay, I'll take that. We still have some room above and below. Let's move on here. That's just a different way to go through the contrast and exposure changes. Let's mess with color. For this, we can really kind of have fun and make it look the way we want. So this kind of seems like a sunset. Let's push some reds into the highlights. And let's make it really warm and glowy. Almost blue. It's cool. Let's bring some of the, I forgot to label this for us. Let's make the blues like more teal. just for fun. The sky kind of teal looking. It's cool. And some saturation. I'm just gonna turn all these on. I want some of that yellow red. Make the sky saturated too. It's kind of fun. It's a nice look. Big difference overall. I want it more golden, I think. Let's try a white balance. It's here too. We'll just warm it up a touch. Cool. All right, I think this, I'm trying the sharpening. I think this looks really good. Like the detail here in the sticks, the grass, like it's writing detail really well. It's not getting gross or chunky. He must have had an ND filter on this because it looks like there's a good amount of motion blur. So honestly, I think all I'd really do is take mid detail down a little bit. No, that's solid. Okay, let's put a look on this one too. Let's do film look creator again. Alaska, yeah. Whoa, that's a big difference. It's way too much. Let's go down. Wow, I like what that does a lot. All right, everything before and after, big change. So I think this was DlogM, which is not really log, it's somewhere in between. So this one did need some of those corrections to it for sure, especially in exposure and saturation, but we were able to really push a lot out of it and give it a cool, creative look. Maybe it's too much, maybe not. See if it copies well. Waveform looks pretty good. Wow, look at that. I think this one needs a little more push into the shadows here. I think the dark stuff is a little red, so let's go just here this way and this. I think there's just a little bit of noise in the shadows, and that will help clean it up a touch. All right, before and after. It looks so good. Let's actually play them. Nice. Look at that little sun flare. How did we do with the... This is still pretty harsh. Can I make that? Let's do it in this. I'm gonna just go to the high soft part and make that a little more glowy. Yeah, that's better. Okay. Okay, now this is actual 04 Pro from Dronarchy as well. Let's see if we can copy and paste. Not really. Let's just get rid of everything quick and just do everything again really fast. I'm gonna call this exposure. Let's do high soft. up our shadows a bit. Pull them back down. Want a little more contrast. Let's bring gamma down. That's good. Maybe soften the lows up a little. Okay. See some color. This one actually looks like there is some weird coloring going on. Let's jump here to alright, let's check Vectorscope. Vectorscope's nice. You can pick here, you can pick what you're actually looking at, so we can see everything, low, mid, and this gives us saturation is towards the outside. This is like a color wheel, just like these. So let's go low, and I'm just gonna center up that bit. I'm gonna go mids. I'm gonna kind of center it. Does it need to go that far? I guess let's try it and see. High. That make everything more neutral? Yeah. So using that Vectorscope split, and you go through each of these, and then those match up with these wheels, you can get stuff centered out and just balanced. The color will balance a little bit better. Let's just call this balance. This looks pretty good too for sharpness. The sky looks really cool. Let's just kind of make our own look here. Let's go hue versus hue. Guess we'll match the other shots and make the sky kind of teal. Let's see the yellows. I like them a little more green. Orange? No, let's do orange. Sure. Let's boost the color a little bit. We're giving it a pretty strong look. I think I like it better before. Sometimes it goes that way. That's alright. What if I go even further on this one's? I think it needs to look a little warm. A little bit more like palm trees. Oops. Okay. Before and after. Not bad. Let's do all of it. It does kind of need a little bit of that bleached look. Let's do this. Just for fun. So only the mid stuff has got saturation. Let's add a little bit of green as well. Call this one look. What if we just do 8 mil? Make it look real old. Vintage vibes. Man, I can't hardly see it even here. Let's go more. There you go. That's laughable how much grain that is. That's awful. I just want the grain to break up edges like that. There you go. Unfortunately, that's always hard to see on YouTube, but the grain's more about a feeling. I want more color out of it too. Let's push some more color. Color boost. And also, I think we did a little too much reduction in brightness. Let's make her pop. Yeah, now it feels like a sunny day. Cool. All right, let's see before and after and move on. Yeah, we lost some detail there. We can maybe go back and mess with it, but okay, moving on. This one's 04 light. Let's do the highlights in a different way on this one. I'm going to do a parallel node again. Say highs. And exposure. So I'm going to go here to the qualifier. I'm going to do this. Highlights are Shift H. And then I'm going to roll my luminance up. So what goes gray is what's not selected, and what you see is selected. I'm going to soften the change into there and then pick where I want it to start to push over. Okay, and then I'm just going to bring this down a bit. If this number goes past 0.9, it's usually pretty bad. It'll look awful. Let's go to point. Sure. We'll hope that's good. All right, so we brought back those as much highlights as we could. We may need to push it a little further, a little higher. We'll see. You can see it here helping a little bit. It's still kind of a bit of a nasty highlight clipping. Can I do even more? Yeah. And this clip has a little bit more shadow detail, I think. So let's do the same. It seems to work similarly to the other. We'll lift our primaries and we'll push back just the darkest stuff down. Leave a little room for something at the end. So we've brightened it up, but we reduced contrast. Let's push our mids back. Barely see a difference. There's just a little extra shadow detail. Here we go, a little more then. Okay, we'll call that good for now. Maybe just can't help myself. Keep the clipping away. All right, let's do a little bit of color. The greens are they're really hyperactive if you look at all that. So let's hit that first. We'll do hue versus luminance. And this is just bringing the brightness of the greens down. think the greens are also kind of, they don't look real. They're too green, or they're too blue. Like if I exaggerate that, they shouldn't be that blue, right? Let's go a little more yellow. Maybe not, maybe they are blue, I don't know. Okay, let's push some colors. Just gonna go for separation again. Let's make them warmer overall. I like that bluer. Because of this motorbike, I like the really dark blue shadows. Hopefully. Yeah. Sure. We'll call it good. All right. Let's move on. This one needs the mid detail down again. Actually, not as much. Let's bring that back up. So I feel like this is what happens with bad lenses usually. It kind of feels like things are a little oily almost. So you can tell it's not as good of a lens. It's not as sharp. And that's more clear on his other clips where he changed the lens out. So let's actually add some sharpening on this one too. I think that's probably a little bit too much, but I'm going to add some motion blur after this. Motion blur, way too much. Let's do better. Removing a lot. And I find the advanced controls usually from previous frame seems to work better, just look a little more natural. Let's tone that down. Yeah. Oh, that was the next shot. Okay, let me go back here. That motion blur makes a big difference. I like it. So let's throw on just the green. Yeah. Green, especially on this shot, is going to help with that shiny look or the oily look a lot. It'll give it a better texture. I think honestly what this one would also benefit from, yeah, I want to do a vignette. I'm just going to do it this way. Make it really soft. So essentially what I'm doing now is adding the sharpening is only happening in the center of this. The sharpening will taper off towards the ends. But that also means I can right click on this and say add an outside node, which just inverts the mask we added here. And then we can do a little bit of darkening down on the edges. Maybe like that. I usually look at the thumbnail when I do a vignette, because if you see it drastic in the thumbnail, it's too much. That gives us a little bit of focus towards the center. That's nice. All right, everything on, off, that looks good. All right, so then these shots, Rice Bowl did a lens swap on the 04 Lite. 3D printed a new mount and added a run cam lens. There's a bit of an issue, I think, with the sensor, so he's got this green spot in the middle. You can see it pretty strongly there. But these shots are really interesting because it shows how much, like, this lens is so much better than what comes on there. It doesn't have that greasy thing. It's super sharp and detailed. It doesn't have as much contrast, but that's okay. We're adding contrast anyways. But like, look at this. And I know this is a different day, and it's still exposing it pretty well. But even what's clipped is not clipping as harshly, and that's a sign of a good lens that has good lens coatings. It will make all of the highlights just kind of, it happens nicer. It's still clipping pretty bad, but it's happening in a nicer way. If I go back to here and turn our stuff, it's just hard clip. There's nothing else there. It's super harsh. And then this one's got that same thing. It's smaller, but it's just happening gentler. It's a much better lens, so hopefully you can figure out the sensor damage or the IR filter or whatever is causing this, and make that work. Maybe try out some other lenses, because it's definitely worthwhile, and you get a much wider field of view. What happens if we copy everything? Exposure's off, but we can bring that down. Oops, keep doing that. It's definitely not the same lens. Let's just try to. We probably can fix the center a little bit. Let's put it here. Because the center was really green. Let's see if we can just do this. Jumped into the tab so we don't have the window visible. Yeah, that helps a little. We could fine tune that and make it better, but yeah, it's gonna be really worthwhile to swap that lens out once he gets the issues figured out. All right, let's go through things quick here. So I think the lights, the 04 lights, the main things to address will be clipping, highlight clipping. If you can shoot with an exposure compensation and put it at -5, that will really help that EV value, because there's room in the shadows, but the highlights are just clipping really bad. But that and over sharpening on those clips is is a lot. So for those 04 lights, that's mostly what I would address. For the pros, they look really good. And it was really just kind of making these shots look cool. Adding contrast and saturation to get out of the log profile, like DlogM is what we needed. This one, adding some motion blur, so you didn't have an ND filter. Some sharpening, softening and sharpening, and the lens swap. But yeah, hope that at least was interesting. If you have any questions or you need help with a specific clip or a feature in Davinci, just hit me up, let me know. Happy to help. All right, good stuff. Thanks for watching.